A little while ago, I uploaded a best of 3 series of StarCraft 2 featuring the Scion Custom Races Mod. At the time, I had absolutely no idea how many of you would be interested in seeing custom races made by the community for StarCraft 2, but I thought it was cool personally and I wanted to go ahead and have a look. It turns out it's one of my best performing videos, at least viewer-wise, that I have uploaded all years. Even though I feel like it was one of my worst casts, just like today's one is going to be, just because I absolutely don't know what's going on. I've seen about half a dozen games or so featuring the Genetron, for example, but that's really about it. I'm not familiar with unit names or strategies or anything along those lines, but we're gonna try our best. So, our first game for today, it's from a recent Scion tournament, just played very recently. These guys, I think, are both regular. They're Grandmaster players in regular StarCraft 2. However, today they're not playing with the Terran pieces or the Protoss pieces or the Zerg pieces whatsoever. Spotting right here in the bottom right-hand corner, playing with the blue Genetron. We're looking inside of the main base of Cognite. And his opponent playing with the purple Keiron. In the opposite corner of the map, we have none other than you. So the tournament organizer, he sent me a whole load of replays from this particular event, and apparently the games I'll be featuring here today are some of the very best from this particular tournament. So we're gonna find out together exactly what has gone down. Now, when I uploaded a previous video, I did feature the Keiron, so that's this race, and then also the Zerg-like one called the Xayid. So that means I want to be paying some special attention right here to the Genetron. So the Genetron, they're a Terran-like race, but they work, well, very differently. First off, most of their units are mechanical, if not all of their units, actually. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't have a single infantry-based army unit at all. I think pretty much everything is going to be mech-based instead. Besides that, though, they have an extra resource, I guess is what we can call it, called energy. So besides the minerals and the gas and the supply count, when you play a game with the Genetron, you also have a resource meter. And I guess the resource meter, it tells you how much you currently have stored up. Now, essentially it can be used for a bunch of different things, but most notably, it makes your units better. So if your units have energy, there's a little Spitfire, by the way. Look at that cute little dude. If your units have energy, they can use different stuff and they become more powerful. Secondly, you can also add it. So here, by the way, we have a processor moving across. If I'm not mistaken, that is a mobile unit that can also grant you, with your units being nearby, additional energy to the rest of your army. Anyways, you can also use some of that Genetron energy, so you can see that right over here in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, to enable faster production on your manufacturers, for example. So these are unit-producing structures, and what you can do is you can change the amount of speed, or the additional speed, I guess, that you're adding on this particular structure to process units faster, right? To be able to print them out a little bit quicker. You can regenerate your energy on your units by being close to a processing core, so that's the main command center-like structure, and you can do so as well offensively by being close to the processor. However, the processor obviously also only has a limited amount of energy, so this can sort of like distribute it around the map as well if you have offensive units nearby. I think that's about the TLDR, the too long, right? The too long didn't read version of the Genetron. So very mechanically focused, they have an additional resource called power, and in general, they can deal a lot of damage, especially when their units are fully powered up. Now, how do you get more power? If I'm not mistaken, you get it from the processing core itself. You get it from the nodes. Where is a node? Don't we have a node anywhere? Yeah, we have a couple nodes over here at the bottom. I was going to say, I thought I saw some on the production tab. I think these also increase the amount of power that you have available. And then there's also the generator. I don't believe we have one of those just yet, but those can all help you generate, well, more power. Most of the units for the Genetron don't seem to have a lot of upgrades other than the most basic units. But the higher tier units don't really seem to get so many upgrades because I guess otherwise it's just too many balls to juggle because there's so much variety when it comes to all of the different units already and so many different things that you need to be balancing that I think I don't know if this is on purpose, but I think it is. I think they've just decided, yo, this is misplaced, isn't it? I feel like this needs to be a little further to the right. I don't know. I think it is. Anyhow, more and more nodes are coming up right here, and it looks like, well, both of these players are more than happy to play a bit of a macro game here so far. We have some Hornets, we've got some Fixers, and we have, well, those Spitfires that I was talking about earlier. Alright, let's have a look at the Keiron. So real quick, a recap on the Keiron as well. This particular race does not have your classical supply depots, or for example pylons or overlords or anything along those lines. Instead, they have, well, these unit producing structures that also allow supply to be added to your army. So right now, for example, you, that's a little bit of a confusing nickname, but you has 96 out of 96, and I believe the way that he can increase the amount of supply available, he hit a bit of a supply block, is by, for example, making additional edifices over here. So these edifices are gonna, well, both provide him more supply, but also give him the ability to warp in additional units. So all of the units, including the capital ships that the Keiron has, are warped in. Well, I don't know if the word they use for it, maybe it's printing or appearing in. I don't know what verb they use for it, but it doesn't really matter. Essentially, they use the Protoss warp in mechanic on every single unit. He does need to have the money for it. Alrighty, so let's find out. I haven't seen a lot of Hornets, so we'll find out together exactly what they end up doing. I'm assuming they're gonna be pretty good, yeah, when it comes to harassing that mineral line over here. Already, a lot of damage is indeed done. Alright, there are a lot of defensive tools available as well, and here's one of those big warp-ins right now for the Keiron player, trying his very best to defend this to the best of his abilities. One thing I've noticed, by the way, because of that power mechanic, so there's also a push over here on the other side of the map, the defender's advantage is quite significant. Ay, 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 ay. That is the ability right here from the Crux, if I'm not mistaken, really putting in a ton of splash damage there. Anyways, the defensive capabilities of the Genetron are very noticeable, because as long as you're close to a processing core, you're going to be able to get that energy redistributed onto your units, so you can actually, well, use the troops that you do have available at more potential. Instead, these Crux, they have to be a little bit careful. They kind of remind me of those weird Zelnaga looking dudes from the StarCraft 2 campaign. And you have to make sure you don't accidentally lose them, because 50 shields, 80 health, it's not amazing, but it's also not terrible. Alright, so upgrades are indeed coming up right here for you. As you can see, when it comes to the upgrades tab, at the very least, basically every Genetron game I've ever seen, their upgrades tab is very, very skinny compared to the opponent. So he's doubling down on the Hornets. There's a processor going over here as well. I think this is mostly just used as a way to scout out what's going on. So at the very least, now Corknight knows the U is underway. I sound like one of those cool kids who's purposely using the verbs wrong. U is underway. Dude, do I sound cool or what? You guys should check out my SoundCloud. Anyways. Yeah, it's really difficult pushing into, well, first off, a high ground like this, but then also into a Genetron base. Is there enough right now for the Keiron player to actually go up towards the high ground? Nice dodging right there of the splash damage. Looks like the Fixer, they're busy fixing all of these units back up to full HP. And even though these Fixers, even though these Hornets over here were used for base, offense earlier, turns out they're pretty good as well when it comes to keeping this particular army alive. Okay, I think this is gonna allow Corknight to go across the map here. Maybe get a little bit of vision. Yeah, at this point, Mr. Yu does see what's going on. He sees these units coming in, but does he have enough? Does he have enough here to actually defend against all of this? There are some defensive structures set up too, so that's gonna make it all a little bit easier here for him to potentially hold on. A lot of damage here is being done though. Yeah, and ultimately, the Fixers are just chasing down a lot of these units. I would love to see maybe one or two of them split off towards that mineral line as well. There are going to be new warp-ins available right now for the player in purple. Trying his very best. Killing the Sanctum here maybe has the potential as well of supply blocking the opponent, but since the Keiron, well, get both supply as well as units from any of these unit-producing structures, it's actually quite difficult to know when they are supply blocked. Like, you may be able to kill 4 of your opponent's pylons, and it's a safe assumption, I guess, that they are going to be hitting a block soon, but not quite necessarily the case. Corknight, by the way, yeah, he does see this very scan-like thing. Okay. Volts are being warped in here. That's the little dudes. They do have some anti-air, if I'm not mistaken. But ultimately, it looks like the player in blue just has a stronger army here. Yeah, look at the amount of splash damage being done. All of those units end up absolutely destroyed. Equalizer being joined in as well. They have a unit, a flying unit. It essentially looks like a shark head to me. I hope we're gonna be seeing some of those as well. I'm not exactly sure what the unit name is. I think it's Boar? I think they have a unit called the Boar. Anyways, that unit is probably my favorite Genetron unit that I've seen so far. Basically what it does, right? You gotta almost imagine it as like an air Scourge, right? So like a StarCraft 1 Scourge, except it doesn't explode on impact. The idea is that you have like this very fast moving unit and you just like cruise it through your opponent's flying army. The idea is that you essentially, I guess, boar rush them, right? Maybe it's a bull. No, I think it's a boar. I think so. Anyways, very cool little unit that you can indeed make use of. We do have a nice counter attack here with the Volts as well, but it looks like the repulsor, the defensive structure right over here. I believe these can be burrowed as well, by the way, which is kind of sick. Looks like it's plenty powerful, as long as it's got energy. Yeah, right now, and that's another feature of the Genetron structures as well. They go into like a, I don't know what the mode is called, but they almost turn offline. They get that like orangey sheen on the structure, and what happens is they can't really function anymore, but they also get additional, I guess it's armor. So at low HP, the unit stops working altogether, or the structure stops working altogether, but it's actually quite difficult for the opponent to kill him. So there's all kinds of like defensive tools built into the Genetron that I think are very clever. Just to give that defender's advantage to, well, the Genetron, I guess. And then also making sure that they can't be using a lot of these things as offensive power instead. Which is a clever way of doing it. It's difficult always to balance offense and defense, because you may find yourself with a race that you've made where the units aren't quite as powerful defensively as they would be offensively, but you don't really want to scale up the offense at the same time. Anyways, we do have a bunch of those wards right now in the mix as well here, and we still have the Crux. They have a lot of very powerful spells, it seems, so let's see if maybe they can help out with some of that splash damage. There we go. Nice explosions. He's trying to push through this choke point, but this is looking like a really solid macro game. That's the thing that surprised me the most about the Scion Custom Races mod. The games are actually competitive. Like, maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but the fact that the games actually are close, not just in like the custom races facing off against each other only, but also against Zerg, Terran, and Protoss. They're surprisingly balanced. Despite the fact that, yeah, a lot of the things are obviously not as well figured out as the regular races in StarCraft. It's not a landslide victory for one player every single time, for example. Looks like this actually has a cloaking ability. That's really powerful. So the courier over here. Cool stuff. Oh my god, lots of damage here being done as well at the bottom of the map. You not really quite paying attention. And that means, yeah, that army is gonna be wiped out. Slowly but surely, though, throughout the last few minutes of the game, Knight has been securing a very nice lead for himself, mining more than the opponent, while at the same time also taking some very cost-efficient trades. Oh, my unit's lost tab even works. Fantastic, yeah. So ultimately, he's lost far less troops than the opponent. Army size right now for you is once again pretty high, but the tier of units doesn't seem to be quite as high here compared to the opponent. We have a whole lot of these Virtuuses. I don't know what the plural of Virtus is. Doesn't matter. Verti. We have a whole lot of Verti now also available. Those big boy tanks don't quite mess around. Now, one option you always have in a game of StarCraft is to go for the counterattack, right? When you feel like, okay, my army, it's not gonna be good enough to take on my opponent's army anymore, you can always go for the counterattack instead and potentially win the base race. Looks like Knight wants to disengage here. I wouldn't mind seeing him bring all of his units together and fighting this massive army in purple. He's gotta be careful though. Concave here would be nice, but I don't think this is the entire army of the player in blue. Instead, yeah, he's done a good job bringing all of those units of his together once again. A little bit of counterattack damage done as well, but only 24 workers remain right now for the Keiron, with the majority of them, yeah, set up over here at this particular base, close to that citadel. One node being set up over there in the middle of the map. This army looks phenomenal though, yeah. There's the Badgers as well. So a lot of units, I guess, are named after animals, which is pretty sick. These are basically like the battlecruiser equivalent. And And I just, oh my god, well, that deals a lot of damage, I'm not gonna lie. You can see as well that the processor is trying his very best to give some more energy right there to that one badger on the left. Ultimately, though, it's Cognite who obtains the victory here in our first game of the day. Alrighty, our next game. We find ourselves on an alternate version of Hecate. We're gonna have to look around the map real quick just to find out what's going on. But first off, playing with the orange Protoss probes. We're looking inside of the main base of Xiomech. And the opponent playing with the green Keiron. We're looking at Use Main Citadel. I totally knew the name of that structure. I totally didn't need to click on it just to see the name, so I could actually introduce the player. Okay, so this is a StarCon 2023 edition of Hecate. I'm not sure exactly what the differences are. Oh, I've seen this before on maps. I think, is it? Yeah, it's in the mirrored location as well on the other side of the map. If I'm not mistaken, this is a healing shrine. Yeah, Xel'Naga healing shrine, that's what it is. Remember those Warcraft 3 healing pools where you could basically just position your army close to it and it would heal up over time? Very powerful. Ooh. Really? We have a little alleyway over here in the back of the main base too. Is you gonna go for some cheese? Is that what we're doing right now? So there's a nullifier proxy inside of the main base of the Protoss. Xiomech currently not entirely aware of what's going on. He did see the reliquary over here, so I'm assuming that's the requirement to be able to make that. So now he sees it. Yeah, so now he must know that something is a little fishy. Would not mind seeing a probe go around, but why in the world is there a massive entrance like that straight into the main base? That's crazy. I like the idea of the healing pools, actually. Oh, I didn't quite realize how close they were together. Alright, anyways. That's a pretty cool mechanic. Yeah, the first nullifier is already done. So, now the real question becomes, right? With this sort of cheese, is Protoss capable of actually shutting this sort of thing down? What do you make against it? Generally speaking, I mean, a Prism and Immortals would be really nice, but this is hitting very early on into the game. So the reliquary rush over here is, I guess, what we can call this. Nah, this is like a fortress. This is like the faction's equivalent of a fort, if I'm not mistaken. This is, I guess, yeah, just a nullifier rush. I don't know if that peeping noise is my favorite. That's very high pitched. Yeah, it's not my favorite. This is dealing a lot of damage. So one thing I noticed in that tournament that I casted some time ago, featuring this particular mod, is that the games that were one-sided were mostly just because, well, the opponents had no idea what they were doing. Whenever you had two players playing against one another that knew what they were doing, it was actually very competitive. So I don't know how much these nullifiers cost, but this is a big commitment right here from you. Sure, he can build all of this stuff in the opponent's main base, but it's not free. Plus, it slows down his economy quite a bit as well. Like, at this point, it's the main base that's being given up on here. Xiomech actually did make a robo facility. Okay. So he's going to be able to get that Immortal going here momentarily, despite the fact that I think everything in the main base will die here before too long. Maybe he can actually save it. That would be huge. So Cybercore is certainly going to fall. Yeah, this high-pitched noise is not the best, is it? It is the game, right? Yeah, it most definitely is the game. Okay. I thought for a second I was starting to hallucinate. Maybe my tinnitus was acting up. Anyways, no, if he can save the base, that would be huge. Now, you need to target that one. Okay. Well, we're gonna go for a second Immortal right now. Would have loved to see that one come up a little bit quicker. If he can save the Nexus, though, I actually don't think that this cheese worked out. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, Yu is making a transition towards all kinds of other stuff. We have a foundry over here, we've got an edifice, an Elysium, we've got another edifice, and he's gonna go for a second base, a citadel. So he's done a good job. Yeah, Xiomech actually holds. I don't think he necessarily needs to kill these right now, but you may as well. As long as you're within range right there of the battery. You could even do a battery overcharge, but I don't think it's needed. Yeah, so this is a mod that's been in development for a long time. And that's probably the reason why it does feel remarkably balanced. I'm sure that if this became like a very popular game mode in StarCraft, right? Pro gamers would be very quick to find all kinds of broken stuff. But that's what they're pro gamers for, right? They're very good at finding the strategies that are silly and probably should be updated. But in the games that I've at the very least seen, remarkably competitive. Alright, so here we have an Umbra, together with a few Volts. Now, I have seen these units before. There's no way they're gonna win this fight. He wants to get one of the Immortals, I suppose, and he does get it, but there's no way he's gonna be able to obtain the victory here with this particular attack. Ultimately, it looks like those things are actually pretty cheap. Yeah, they're not that expensive. Interesting. Ultimately, though, I think this is a relatively even game. Okay, so we have the Pariah ready to go across the map. They have modified gate. There you go. Which effectively just gives them that nice little boost. Oh, the Umbra here, it doesn't have any health problems anymore, but it does need to wait until the shields come back. Which is an interesting thing, actually, for, I guess, Protoss and then Keiron units alike. The Healing Shrine does not heal up, well, everything. Okay, nice little bit of juggle potential here, for sure. You gotta be careful, though. These guys actually hit armored units very hard, it seems. These hamster balls. Yeah, that ability is awesome. They're super quick, so they can be used for surrounds. The aggression is gonna continue, however, and the battery here is not in the most optimal location. Shield battery does fall down, but I just don't believe there is ultimately enough right here for the Keiron. He's making a third base on the back of it. Blink is coming up. Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think Xiomech should just let this happen. I think he should probably just go for some sort of two-base push. How many gateways are we gonna be on? Well, he decides to go for a third Nexus. We're only gonna be up to 4 gateways here in total. Yeah. Yeah, I understand going for a third Nexus here. It does feel to me like the Keiron player can be quite vulnerable, because there's really not that much set up defensively. Regenerating some of the shields right here on his dudes. I believe that's that Nexus ability. I don't know what it's called, but we have a little bit of an Immortal drop in the main base. Putting in whatever work he can. Trying to keep these units alive to the best of his abilities. Oh my god, there's the Pariah showing up again. But as long as the Prism lives, I think we should be okay. Looks like the Ward also has an anti-air attack. Oh, the Volt! Okay. Yeah, so they have a bunch of cheap units. Observer, by the way, in the mix. Another thing that I think is really cool about this map is that a lot of these models are custom made. So you can tell that they're, like, some of them at least are mixed and matched from different resources available in the StarCraft 2 editor. Oh god. Ha! There's little alleyways here where only workers, I guess, can fit. Anyhow, some of the things are mixed and matched, and some of them seem to be completely custom made, which is really cool. Because it's quite concise, right? Like the art style, it fits very well with the StarCraft 2 art style, but that's mostly because it's also using a lot of the StarCraft 2 assets. Like, I can imagine that these guys, I mean, they look very similar to Zealots to me, right? They're basic, like, they look very different, but like they behave, when you just look at the way that the unit moves, they behave exactly like a Zealot does. And I guess that's why it doesn't seem so jarring. It just looks like this could be added to the game, and people would be like, yeah, this is Blizzard-like quality. Anyways, battery overcharge over here is going to be needed at home, as we have the Umbras now joining in as well from the back. It looks like the Keiron player managed to get a beautiful surround right here on all of these Protoss units. There's the Prism finally showing up once again, but after the entire army here for the player in orange fell, which is not quite optimal. Immortals are going to try their very best, but you got to be so cautious. These units have been worth their weight in gold so far. But the Prism, man, yeah, it's not that safe a home anymore! Oh my god! Literally 1 health. I mean, to be fair, he needs to continue juggling, because otherwise the Immortals die for certain. Ultimately, though, I've got a feeling that even though that cheese here in the earlier stages of the game, it didn't work out that well, I think it confused Xiomech quite a bit as far as like what he had to do goes. I mean, he's been going for a bit of a push, but also a bit of a macro game, and trying to just simply continue building up his economy was not a bad idea. Probes actually find a little wiggle all the way towards the third, which is kind of nice. maybe he can hold on. But the problem here for him is that in the meantime, on the other side of the map, there's a 4th citadel now coming up. We have a tremendous amount of economy here for the player in green. He does need to continuously reinforce this though, because there's a little bit too much money in the bank for my liking. But ultimately, that's the natural expansion gone. I think that's the 2nd cybernetics core of the game that just got destroyed. I don't think any of these other units, by the way, could fit through there. Maybe these pariahs can, but probably not. Okay. Yeah, no, that 3rd base is also dead. I think with that, we are witnessing the ending right here of Xiomech's chances in this game. He's gonna try and get the jump on this army. I mean, to be fair, this is still a scary Protoss force, but I just don't think he's got the numbers anymore, especially with more and more reinforcements being available. Ultimately, this is the army he needs to win the game with, not just this fight. And that indeed means that the Keiron obtained the victory. One more? Let's do one more. Our last game for today, it's gonna feature the Xayid. And playing right here with the red, well, I was gonna call them drones, but I don't know what they're called. The workers. We have eggs, and the opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the Keiron this time around. We're looking inside of the main base of Xiomech. What are the workers called? Scavengers, that's it. Alright, so these guys clearly are inspired by the Zerg, but they function a little bit differently once again as well. It looks like, for example, this main scavenger nest, the main structure, the hatchery-like thing, it does not generate larvae like a hatchery normally would. Instead, you need to be building up these dens. Yeah, you need to be building up the larva generators. They will be coming up very soon. They also have a thing called the feeding pool. Feeding pool, in my mind, is inspired a little bit by the Night Elf Moonwell, where units that are close by can, well, simply regenerate a little bit of life as long as they are close to the feeding pool. Again, a very cool defensive mechanic. Taken maybe from another RTS game, but hey, better to borrow fantastic concepts rather than come up with entirely new stuff yourself, right? This is already a proven concept, and why not? We don't have it in StarCraft. Look at the little drone hands. Look at him wiggling his arms back and forth. Aww. Surprisingly cute. Although when you think about it, right? Picture the size of a Marine right next to a drone, right? A Marine, I think, in a full suit is probably like, I want to say probably like 2 meters tall. Because they wear some really large shoes and like the helmet and everything. They're probably like close to 2 meters. Drones, or in this particular case, scavengers, are absolutely massive. If these things were real and, well, on planet Earth, I guess, it would be, yeah, you wouldn't want to stand that close to them. That would be pretty terrifying. Anyways, look at the Xayid den over here. So the Xayid den is slowly generating larvae, and this is ultimately where your attacking units come out of. And all of the attacking units are a little bit different than the ones from the Zerg. We'll get to them in just a moment. Mutant Chamber over here already produced as well for the Xayid. So no early game cheese this time around that Xiomech has to worry about, although he still has to be careful that he doesn't just get overwhelmed here by these little guys. Yeah, these roamers, they actually pack a punch. I've seen a bunch of games where the roamers just straight up win the match. Volt versus roamer, but look how fast they are. Yeah, they're a super quick unit. Reminds me a lot of the Zergling, except that they are, well, ranged. So you can actually fight at quite a bit of a distance. And when I explain it like that, it sounds pretty broken to me. Anyways, more and more of them are running towards the other side of the map, probably joining the same control group. Problem here is, though, yeah, they have a nice ability that allows them some scouting info, so they have that activated ability. They're not really that powerful, by the way. They're strong, but nothing all too crazy. This purple thing over here in the bottom right-hand corner, you can effectively get a temporary scout with these units. So I would love to see him using it again, maybe inside of the main base, to see what sort of transition is coming up right here for our player in orange. Turns out there's an Elysium right now on the production tab. Okay. Casnolisk Den. So these are like tech structures that you need to unlock in order to, well, make other units out of the larva. So if I'm not mistaken, the Xayid dens, they're only here for generating ground larvae. And then there's another structure that we may see come into play in a moment that is gonna generate the larvae that you need for flying units instead. So here's a Scorpalisk. These guys are very strong. Plus, look at the way they move, dude. Look at that swagger. Yeah. Yeah. My cats sometimes walk around the living room like that too. It's when they are feeling particularly cool about themselves. It's their I am so badass walk. Yeah. Anyways, Pulsar, our setup. We have a subjector over here too. These units pack a punch, so you gotta be very careful. Scorpiolisk is not the cheapest unit in the game. There's another one of those scouts, and basically it explodes like that, and it gives you like 10 seconds or so worth of vision. Lovely mechanic. Grooved spines. Come. Oh wait, no. I don't think this is Hydralisk range. I think this is just a +1 upgrade, actually. I'm not exactly sure though. Roamer gonna come around the site? Yeah. These units have to stand still here in order to actually make that structure, so when you know where it's located, it's not a bad idea. In the meantime, we see the same thing happening as well here for Eggs, who is gonna be building up his third scavenger nest on the bottom of the map. Ooh, as soon as those melee units though, yeah, the Scorpiolisk get within range. No response right there from Ziomek for quite a little bit. Trying his very best to get rid of these roamers, but more and more of them are showing up on the other side of the map. It looks like the Scorpiolisk can be used to tank for the roamers' damage. Even though they also do pack a punch themselves, they have quite a few health. Quite a bit of health. Quite a few hit points. That's a better way to put it. Okay. But again, these unit interactions look natural to me, right? Like, it looks and feels pretty balanced. Again, I have very limited experience, but it's not like one of those units is just substantially better than the other. Now, we have a Crux added into the mix once again. It does not look like it's got access to that ability that we saw deal so much damage in previous games. And we also have the Umbra right now. The hamster dudes. I don't know why they're called Umbras. Maybe it's Umbra? I don't know. Anyhow, Roamer's coming in right now. But yeah, these are the earliest units in the game. Maybe their numbers can still work out in their favor though. But with new Pulsar now joining the battlefield, not a whole lot he can do. That's a lot of vision. Maybe accidentally activating all of them or just rapid firing it as quickly as possible. It's a nice way though. If you want to like retreat, you can just sort of throw them one at a time, one at a time, one at a time, and then you can see exactly where the opponent's army is located when they are trying to chase you down. All right, bottle pits are coming up. Those are the defensive structures right here for the Xayid. So apparently, maybe a little concerned right now of just a small group of, for example, these Volts or Pariahs to just suddenly show up. Okay. Looks like we're once more playing a bit of a macro game, albeit one where, yeah, our Xayid player is being pretty aggressive. He's brought a Reviler to the front right now as well. All of these units, by the way, only have 4 legs. It looks like they could use more. I'm not gonna lie, man. This dude in particular in the back could probably benefit from having 6 of them instead. Alright, Ziomek wants to hold that high ground. He's trying to come in as well from the right side, but it looks like these Pulsars have been able to deflect this small little group of units. Alright, yeah, so the Grooved Spines ability indeed is the +1 upgrade right here for Eggs. Some sort of Curse Roach Speed upgrade over here, whatever that thing does, and I think this is the +1 armor. Biomass Cavern. Not exactly sure what that unlocks, but I think we'll find out in just a moment. Because we do have some grubs over here right now as well, from a biomass hatchery. Interesting. So that one just finished up. Look at that. So this is like a lurker den with a roach warren built on top of it. But it doesn't look out of place. You see what I mean? Like it looks... Anyways, big fight happening over here. Sorry, I'm gonna back off. Apparently Ziomek decided to march across the map while I was looking at the pretty pictures. Again, the Scorpiolisks managed to get on top of this army, but is there enough right now for the red player here? A lot of the ranged units here are not messing around. Spitter in the back as well. These guys actually do a ton of damage. But they're also quite expensive, so you don't want to just throw them away. And ultimately, I guess Ziomek here has got what he came for. Little run by over here, but good body block right there as well with the Pulsar, keeping this base alive and not really losing all too much. Yeah, still 16 workers in total though throughout this game. The problem is that Eggs has also sacrificed a lot of his economy in order to actually try and get this going. I don't know if I already mentioned this, by the way, but all the players in these games are grandmaster players in StarCraft 2, so they definitely know what they're doing on the regular StarCraft 2 ladder. They certainly have been practicing this mod as well. Seems like the level of play has gone up, and it's gotten a lot more competitive over the last few weeks, which is cool to see. I wonder if my video actually had any influence on that at all. There must be at least a few people that were like, huh, this is cool. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try. Look at these big boys. The myriads. See, they have more legs. It turns out 8 legs is vastly better than 4. Yeah, I'm no expert, but I think that's how it works. Okay, so there's that scary looking storm ability that we saw being used so effectively earlier. I believe that's for the Crux. That's for this guy right over here. 4th base coming up right now for Eggs. Trying his very best, making use of those feeding pools as well to bring his units back up to full HP. And he's ready now to fight another day. His Pariah run-by is not really working out all too well. Okay. So effectively all of those roamers have been replaced with higher tier units. We now also have a Ferion, which can ferry on units. Clever little name. Yeah, so it's loading a bunch of units up, and I think they're gonna try and be dropped off over here inside of the main base. We'll have to see exactly what these Myriad do, because I don't quite understand them at this point, but, well, they're gonna be coming into the mix. Oh yeah, those are the ones that have these, whatever they're called. These Elytrons, apparently. Basically little scarabs that are getting some work done. Dropping the main base though with those leftover roamers that I was talking about earlier, dealing quite a bit of damage, picking up the pulsars before they actually finish materializing over here. Oh, there's that Crux as well, that ability dealing so much damage, shutting down a lot of Eggs' army, and I don't think he was paying attention right there for a little bit. Now suddenly he has to run for his life with a lot of his units. Reinforcing troops though, coming in as well from the bottom of the map. Is he looking to re-engage over here? I don't think he should. Yeah, these Myriads, I guess they're like ground carriers, right? Dealing a lot of damage. Speaking of dealing a lot of damage though, Ferion here still continuing the drop play for a little bit longer. Now we have the Subjectors in the mix, and they're gonna be able to somehow get a Viper death animation out of that Ferion. I guess that's the unit that it is based off of. +2 coming up. And more troops as well being built right now for the Keiron. Yeah, these are cool. Another thing I kind of like about this mod so far is that you actually need a combination of units, right? It's not like one unit that is clearly the one you're aiming for. Like, no, maybe a little run-bys, sure, kind of like a Zergling run-by, but ultimately you have to build compositions. You're not just focusing around one unit, like you do in almost every RTS, to be honest, out there. StarCraft 2 really is almost the exception. You rarely, oh my god, another one of these big hits. You rarely see a focus on like 6, 7, maybe 8 different units. Anyhow. Yeah, this is too much damage here, coming out of the Keiron. In the meantime though, that Roamer counterattack is really effective. Eggs right now, shutting down his opponent's economy once again. This is gonna come at the cost of what seems to be the 4th base. 5th hatchery coming up, or not hatchery, scavenger nest, same as well for this expansion here in the bottom left. He's gonna need to make a lot of defensive troops. Macro seems to be on point. Here's the avian nest, by the way. I think that's also where that Ferion comes out of. So he wants to fight close to his feeding pools and his bile pits. Looks like he's decided to just, well, at least for now, give up on this location. I don't think you want to stay out here for too long, Zio. It's a little bit dangerous, although reinforcements are gonna show up. Bile pit helping out. Is there enough? Oh my god, he just killed his own units. I was wondering if that dealt friendly fire. It sure does. Well, that's one way to give your opponent a nice head start to a fight. He just accidentally blew up his own army with the Crux. Little Roamer counterattack is gonna be able to make short work of that Citadel, that +2 upgrade, really helping out, it seems. Spitters here from a distance, trying to use their abilities as well. There you go, to just blow up as many of these troops as they can. And again, dude, that splash damage is not messing around. Feeding pools helping out quite a bit as well. Looks like indeed the base will fall. And Ziomek may have just accidentally shot himself in the foot when he, well, effectively stormed his own units to death. Now the pulsars show up, but that's a little too late already. That base here on the bottom left is actually kind of nice as well. I don't believe that Xiomech has any idea about it, no. So he did see this base some time ago, although it's been remade. Same for that one on the bottom left. Zio not quite aware of exactly what's going on, and that may create a bit of a misread. His opponent right now should have a really nice amount of income. There we go. Eggs is gonna start outgrowing the opponent's army here very quickly. But for the time being, Xiomech's army here is still absolutely massive. Another one of those explosions though, my god. It's like corrosive balls for a distance. Raptor also joining in the fray, apparently noticing here that his opponent doesn't have that much anti-air in the force anymore. So he's hoping maybe that these Raptors can continue dealing damage. They kind of remind me of Zork Banshees in a way. It looks like, yeah, eggs indeed. He's gonna be able to get the comeback going. Base over here gets denied another time. I don't believe that was a cancel, so those minerals are gonna be down the drain. GG is called, and it's eggs who obtains the victory. Hey, let me know your thoughts on this down below. If there's enough interest, I'm definitely down to, for example, explore the Scion Custom Races mod more myself. Maybe figure out how the races work exactly. But there's also loads of other custom games and mods for StarCraft 2 available. I'm happy to do a deep dive into some of them if there's enough interest. Anyways, for now, hit that like button down below if you enjoyed watching this video. Have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile, and I hope to see you once again very soon for another video.